problem. Well, the deficit's getting better. It's about, what, 600 billion? Used to be a trillion. Yeah. Better than what? Better than it was when the Democrats had the House, Senate, and the presidency. It's gotten better than that because the Republican House has said no to the massive spending increases that Obama still wants to put on the American people. We're having a discussion about tax reform here in D.C. But here's the challenge. The Republicans want to put forward a plan that reduces marginal tax rates. Now our business tax, corporate income tax, is 35%. The European average is 25%. Stupider than Europe is not where you want to be on your tax policy. So that's the average in Europe. A lot of European countries, the Canadians are around 17.5%. We're 35, Canada's at 17.5. You're going to put a factory somewhere. Which side of the border do you put it on? This is not helpful to be so uncompetitive in the world. We need to get the rate down. We need to have full expensing for all business investment, not long depreciation schedules. And we need to have a territorial tax system. We in North Korea have worldwide tax systems, whereas the American companies or American individuals who work overseas, we tax them as if they lived in Boston rather than in Sweden or Paris, where they get taxed there and then they get taxed by us. So we need to have territorial tax system, full expensing for all business investment, and a rate no higher than 25% for individuals or businesses. That's tax reform. The president just wants higher taxes.
On our line for Democrats, Dan in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Hello, C-SPAN. I hope Grover was
Hi, Dan.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Dan.
Okay. I was hoping you would actually listen to the first segment of the show and heard all the horror stories. That's all I got to say. Are we talking about taxes or health care?
We can do either. There are a lot of taxes in the health care bill.
Okay.
I got a list of them if you'd like.
Okay, health care is a moral issue. Okay, it's a moral issue. We're a Christian country, take care of the weak and the poor.
Actually, we're a country in favor of religious liberty, I think.
Morality is what we're talking about here, right?
Okay.
We're listening.
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got a little sidetracked there. But I guess the first question is, do you think that it's proper for a person working at WellPoint, the CEO, to make over $50 million a year?
Well, first of all, people should only make what the guys in their company think they're worth. There's some CEOs who are paid too much. Absolutely. Those companies tend to go bankrupt if they're paying people more than they're worth. I think there's been a lot of perhaps overpayments in some of that area, but I don't want the government deciding how much you or anybody else can earn as a living. I think some of the salaries people get when they play baseball and football are pretty high, pretty amazing. But as long as people pay them voluntarily, I don't want the government involved in that. A team can go bankrupt if it spends too much money. That's their challenge, their problem. I don't want the government telling them that the pitcher isn't worth what they're willing to pay him.
Gene, Jonesboro, Illinois, Republican caller.
Yeah, good morning. We have the best health care system in the world. I'm amazed at all the stats given by the liberals on our ranking in the world health care. Presidents, kings, and world leaders, they don't go to Australia, Cuba, England, or Canada for major illness. They practice the Canadian health care system, which is go to America. One reason that the cost is expensive is because of managed care. You've created an industry in between that just charges, raises price, and pays for all their benefits. The other thing is state mandates. You go to Missouri, they want freckles removed. You go to Illinois, they want hair transplant. And you keep adding all up. The Republicans, and I'm a Republican all my life, they don't have an alternative, but I do. The new alternative that I read, that HR 2300 that Representative Price has got coming. Well, let's see. Extends tax deductions for employers. Patients' true portability. Gives doctors real power. Reforms medical liability laws. Big deal. What does that mean to the average citizen?
All right.
Two things. One, if you get sick somewhere in the world, you'd rather get sick in the United States than just about anywhere else. And as you mentioned in Canada, one of the reasons people come to the United States, Canadians come to the United States for certain operations, is that the way they keep costs down is what Obamacare will do to us, which is the only way you keep costs down is to deny care to certain people, to say you're too old to have your knee replaced, and put you on a waiting list in order to reduce the total amount of operations and medical costs that take place. So I think it's to have those kind of decisions. The caller earlier was talking about the morality of health care. Telling people they can't have access to health care is a little bit of a challenge, and it is the only cost reduction that exists in Obamacare. They have price controls, wage controls, and denial of care. I'd rather have the free market get prices down in the way we do with when you buy and sell computers or anything else in the free market. More people producing, more people giving more opportunities. That's the way to keep costs down and quality up, which is an important part of healthcare or anything else.
Andrew Taylor's piece with the Associated Press appears in the Washington Times this morning about GOP moderates pushing for an attainable budget plan. He says the word attainable means something the Senate can pass and the president can sign. Those working with the administration, GOP's pragmatic wing, include John McCain of Arizona, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Bob Corker of Tennessee, and Johnny Isakson of Georgia, have been meeting frequently with White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough and other top Obama aides, seeking ways to replace the deep, non-discretionary so-called sequestration cuts. Some of these guys worried about the impact it's having on defense.
Yeah. The president's, one of the things that's interesting as we go into this budget fight, sequestration is actually limiting the growth of government. It's working as it was supposed to work. The caller called and said the deficit's going down. Yes, it's going down because of sequestration, which the president now wants to undo. When the president needed to increase the debt, total U.S. government debt, by $2.5 trillion to get him from 2011 till after the 2012 election, and we're now there, so he's got to do it again. He wanted to buy himself time, and Republicans said, and this was the Boehner rule, which is still in effect, if you want a debt ceiling increase of $1 trillion, you have to reduce spending by $1 trillion in the same piece of legislation. And so we got $2.5 trillion in spending cuts, about $1 trillion from spending that the president had jacked up previously, and then $1.2 trillion in the sequesters, the president's idea. Half on Pentagon spending, half on domestic discretionary spending. The president did that because he thought that Republicans would never allow the restraint on Pentagon spending. In point of fact, Republicans are committed to having a reasonably priced, cost-effective defense, as well as every other part of the government. That the Pentagon is not sacrosanct, and the president just had some cartoon image of what Republicans are for. He thought, oh, they always want more for the military. Well, you know, you want a strong military to keep the Canadians on their side of the border and keep the country safe, but you don't waste any money. That's nonsense.
So is it a mistake for Senators John McCain, Lindsey Graham, those that have been outspoken on national security issues, is it a mistake for them to be negotiating them with the president because of their concerns over defense spending? Oh,
well, I think, look, if you always talk to people, you know, talk to the president. What's come out of those meetings, the president says he wants tax increases so he can spend more money. He has no interest in spending any more money on national defense. He wants to spend less money for the Pentagon. He wants to raise taxes to avoid spending restraint. He wants to break the sequester to spend more money and to raise taxes to spend more money. So I think it's brave and commendable of a handful of Republican senators to go talk to the president's staff people. The president's not at these meetings, but his staff is. And they tell him, and they say, we want you to raise taxes so that we can spend more money. How about that? Senator McCain isn't going to agree to that. Lindsey Graham isn't going to agree to that. None of those people are going to agree to the position the president's staked out. We went through this in 2010, 2011, 2012. The president keeps coming back saying, why don't, instead of reducing spending growth, why don't we raise taxes? And Republicans say no, and he comes back and he asks the same question a different way.
So then what do you think the odds are the government shuts down this fall?
Well, I don't think it shuts down. We didn't shut it down the last time. The president came to the table and agreed to spending restrictions.